Hello, everyone. My name is Julia Szczerbak. I am a specialist at Nevestate, focusing on residency and citizenship programs. On our channel, we talk about overseas real estate for personal purchase, for investment, and for obtaining residency or citizenship. Today, we're going to talk about Greece's Golden Visa. How can you earn money by investing in this program? And if you're already interested in this program or if you've looked into it before, you know that the conditions now depend on the location. The program was slightly changed last year, let's put it that way. And now there are two thresholds, 400 and 800. But there is still an opportunity to obtain a residence permit in Greece for 250,000, but only under certain conditions. That is, the projects must meet certain conditions, which ones, this is what we'll break down in the video now. And since after all, any residence permit implies owning real estate, you've made the investment, and as long as you want to renew this residence permit, you must keep the investment. And here the question arises, where is it better to invest this money so that you can also earn the maximum profit from it? Because right now, of course, there are a lot of different offers on the market. Although in principle, in the category of specifically for 250,000 euros, there aren't that many. Still, I'll repeat, there are certain conditions that need to be met here, but nevertheless, there is a choice. And how do you make the right choice? We studied this market, selected several developers, and today I invited one of them to talk about their project. Good afternoon, Elena. A representative of the developer.
Julia, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. It's certainly interesting to talk with you and your viewers today and to share in more detail about how to choose real estate correctly, what properties and options are currently available on the market, and briefly a little about our company.
We won't go into detail right now about conditions, the procedure, or obtaining a residence permit. You can get that information during a personal consultation. All our contact details and phone numbers are listed below this video. Leave your contact information and we will get in touch with you to provide a personal consultation, because everyone has their own circumstances and goals depending on the number of family members and their ages. Briefly, let me remind you that what opportunities it provides. You can include, in addition to the main applicant, you can include your spouse, adult children, and parents from both sides. You can also include children up to 24 years old if they are financially dependent. If your children are older, you can make them the main applicant and include yourself as their parent. So an individual consultation is needed here. To do this, leave your contact information. That's it. And after receiving a personal consultation, we will choose a property for the Golden Visa, which in addition offers many other advantages. First and foremost, people get it for visa-free entry to Schengen countries, for their children's education, to preserve investments in a stable currency, to receive income, and to have access to European bank accounts. So now let's move on to the property that we recommend to you, which we have selected from the current offers on the market. But Elena, could you say a few words about your company as a developer? And then we'll move on to a detailed discussion of your project.
Yes, I would like to note that we specialize specifically in real estate properties located in Athens and Piraeus. This is the mainland part of Greece. Athens is the capital of Greece. Accordingly, these are the regions where the real estate market is quite active. So if you ever want to resell this property, get something new, or make some profit from it, Athens and Piraeus are ideal locations to choose. We already have more than 35 projects specifically in Athens and Piraeus. We don't specialize in just one type of development. That is, we have residential properties, commercial spaces, office premises, and we also have serviced apartments, which is exactly what we'll be talking about today. This is the project you see on the screen. It is located in the Moshato district of Athens. It's a very convenient location right across from the metro station. Moshato itself is considered a residential district. It's quite close to the center of Athens, but at the same time, it's not in the city center. Naturally, you can also get to the waterfront and take a walk. And the area itself is mainly chosen by local residents, local Greeks, which is also an important point if you ever decide to resell this property in the future. It's a 3-story building. Previously, it was designated for commercial use, but now it has a residential designation. That's exactly why it qualifies for a residence permit with an investment of 250,000 euros. These are serviced apartments, which is a very important point for our clients because this is a property that is purchased by foreign clients, meaning they do not reside in Greece. In other words, they need a residence permit, but the clients are not planning to live in Greece. Accordingly, we have a management company that handles any issues related to these apartments. So the client doesn't have to worry about renting it out, or if there's a leaking faucet that needs fixing, or if the furniture breaks or some repairs are needed. So the management company takes care of all these aspects completely. That's why they're called service apartments. If we look further at the map, you'll see it's located right next to the Moshato metro station. You can see that it's situated between the Athens Acropolis and the waterfront I mentioned earlier. There are actually a huge number of universities in both Athens and Piraeus. And students are actually our primary target audience, the ones who need these apartments for rent the most. There's a big problem with this in Greece, and they're more than happy to rent these apartments. So let's get back to our apartments. They are sold fully furnished and equipped with designer renovations. In fact, the investor doesn't have to do anything at all. They only handle the organization of the transaction itself and obtaining the residence permit. We take care of everything else, all other real estate concerns.
And what about any additional expenses later on? After you've applied for the golden visa and paid your, let's say, additional program-related expenses, so aside from paying the 250,000 for the apartments, what other additional expenses are there? Are there any taxes? Are there any annual expenses? Or, for example, do you simply need to buy furniture?
Naturally, there are expenses when purchasing real estate in Greece. At the moment, there is a property transfer tax, which is 3.09%. A government fee for the cadastral registry is 0.8% of the property's value. And there will also be lawyer and notary fees. The lawyer and notary fees on average amount to between 1 and 1.5% of the property's value. This is paid separately to the lawyer and separately to the notary. These are the expenses related to acquiring the property. There will also be expenses related to connecting the utility meters. In our case, this will be about 600 euros. Again, it depends on the property. Each property will have a different cost. Specifically, this concerns the utility meters. There will also be separate expenses, but here it depends on the family composition. That is, the total amount will be calculated based on how many people are applying. These are the expenses. If we're talking about when a person already owns the property, there will be annual expenses. In our case, all utility bills are paid by the tenant. So nothing falls on the owner's shoulders here. And what is very important in our case is the guaranteed yield. So the client doesn't have to worry at all about whether the apartments will be rented out or not, or if they will stand empty, or how we will find a tenant and so on. The management company handles everything, and the owner receives their guaranteed income. In this case, for these apartments, it is 4% per year. For Greece, this is an excellent amount, considering that apartments purchased for residency permits cannot be rented out short term. When we return to the annual expenses we will have, taking into account that we will have rental income, the client will accordingly need to pay income tax every year. Greece has a progressive tax scale. If the income is up to 12,000 euros per year, in our case, it will be up to 12,000 euros per year. The tax will be 15% of the total amount. This is the first thing the client must pay. And the second thing the client pays is the property tax. In Greece, it is called enfia. We cannot tell you exactly how much the property tax will be because it is calculated in the first year when the client already owns the property and the tax office calculates it automatically. It depends on various factors. It depends on the location, that is the region. The area depends on the size and on what services are available in the given complex and so on. In our case, I think it will be about 5 to 6 euros per square meter per year. So overall, taxes are quite low in Greece and in fact quite low
compared to other European countries.
Yes, compared to other countries. As for filing and paying taxes and submitting a tax declaration, this is done annually, and in Greece it is mandatory. By the way, an important point, even when a client buys property or opens a tax number, they do not automatically become a tax resident. In other words, to become a tax resident of Greece, you need to meet an additional set of requirements, so to speak. So if a client simply buys a property, yes, they will get a tax number, but that does not make the client a tax resident of Greece.
Well, because they don't actually live there, right? So
yes, that's an important point. For many clients, this is a relatively important detail. So regarding tax payments and filing declarations, we also have a company that assists with all of that, handles everything, sends timely notifications, and all the client needs to do is respond to emails.
So you can purchase remotely and also monitor your property remotely, so to speak, with your help. And
that's absolutely right. Of course, the management company sends photos at regular intervals. If you need anything extra, you can always get in touch. The transaction can be completed entirely remotely. You will need to choose a lawyer who will represent the client in Greece and accordingly issue a power of attorney to the lawyer. This can be done remotely from any country. The only thing is that the power of attorney must be certified with an apostille stamp. Again, lawyers always provide guidance on how to do this. And in general, any transaction can be completed remotely. The only thing is that if the client is applying for a residence permit for the first time, they will still need to come to Greece to submit their biometrics.
But yes, this is more related to the procedure.
Yes.
This requires a separate consultation. Of course, we also provide guidance on the procedure itself. Before purchasing real estate, a potential client naturally becomes familiar with the entire process and understands all the timelines. This, let's say, is a matter for a separate consultation. Now, if we return specifically to this property, as we can see on the screen, yes, it's actually quite large.
This is a large complex. There are 110 apartments here. But here there is its own management company. There is 24/7 security, and there are so many registrations. In other words, this entire property is under control. Naturally, there is a team of cleaners, and so on, everything is in place. What is very important, you may notice, we have solar panels installed on the roof here. So overall, the building's energy efficiency class will be A+. What does this mean specifically for the client? It means low utility bills, even if you don't live here yourself. Accordingly, this is attractive overall for resale.
Yes, in the future, yes, for resale. For example, let's say 5 or 10 years have passed and someone wants to resell. It's also very important to understand how to choose a project that you might want to sell in the future. If, for example, you no longer need a residence permit, your plans change, you might get citizenship in another country or a different type of residence permit, or for any other reason, then naturally you might want to sell. And here it's very important to consider how and to whom you will be able to sell it in the future. In other words, it should already have investment appeal. And as I already mentioned, it's quite a sizable, yes, a large building for Greece, especially in areas where under this program there are targeted developments. They position themselves as boutique hotels, building in the style of a boutique hotel, meaning they renovate just a few apartments. But this is much more difficult to manage later on. There won't be that level of service there. The building simply won't be maintained in the same way. So that's something you also need to consider. What condition you'll be selling it in if you decide to sell it in 10 years?
That's absolutely right. And another very important point is that we have a lease agreement with the management company, with the tenant for 10 years, plus a possible extension for another 5 years. What does this mean? It means that we are confident that this building is a liquid asset. We are not afraid to lease it for 10 years, and we are ready to pay the client a guaranteed return. A very important point, the rent will be indexed annually to match the inflation rate. In other words, we don't stay at the same level when a client enters this project. Let's say they receive 800 euros per month, then every year their rental amount will increase in line with inflation.
Here you can see the floor plan showing how everything will look. Once again, for clarity, we are highlighting all the advantages of this particular complex, of this specific building.
By the way, on the roof where we saw the solar panels, we've made some changes to the plan. And now part of the roof will be occupied by solar panels, while the other part will be a lounge area where you can go up with a coffee or a cocktail. And from the roof, there is a beautiful view of the city.
Of course, especially in a climate like Greece, you can do this all year round. We're telling you all this in such detail because it all affects the investment appeal. As you already mentioned, the main thing here is the turnkey solution when it comes to long-term rentals. Everything will be in demand, it will be well maintained and managed professionally. And as they say, you won't have to worry about anything, you'll just be able to monitor things from time to time.
And receive your income.
Yes. Receive income, and at the same time be the holder of a Greek golden visa, which, by the way, as I'll repeat, I don't think this option will last for long. So you shouldn't put it off or hesitate, especially considering how these programs are changing now. They're being closed or made more complicated. So you need to understand that this 250,000 option, yes, already comes with certain conditions, which I want to emphasize again. It must be real estate, it must have a certain status, permission, and it must be converted into residential property. There aren't that many of them. There are still some choices left, and we make that choice for you by finding the most attractive investment project from the developer. And we explain all of this in detail in videos like this. And you should keep in mind that the program for this particular option will not last long. So unlike before, when people could take their time, make decisions, and the program would run smoothly for 10 years with people thinking it over for years and preparing. But now, of course, you need to hurry because, as I mentioned at the beginning, there is an increase, 400 and 800. That's why this particular option can be abolished at any moment. With other programs, the European ones, you can see that they are either being shut down completely or certain real estate options are being removed, or the threshold is being raised. So if you are interested in a European residence permit program through investment, specifically through investment, this is currently the lowest threshold.
This is the best option. It's the lowest and the best option.
Compared to others, there aren't many programs left. So honestly, there really aren't any other options. Yes, there are still funds, for example. That's it. But through investment, there are practically none left. So you'll find all our contact information all of our contact details below this video. Leave your contact details and we'll get in touch with you, provide a detailed consultation about the program and review your case. You'll then understand what additional expenses you might have. So you'll have an exact amount for the procedure, the timeline, and so on. We'll definitely review your project.
I wanted to add a bit of general information about real estate. When foreign clients buy real estate in Greece, well, this is the title. That is, they acquire not only the horizontal property itself, meaning the apartment, but also a share of the land beneath the building in a certain proportion that is divided among all the owners of the building. This is a very important point. This property can later be sold, inherited, or gifted. In other words, they have all the same rights as any ordinary Greek who buys this property. And another important point, when reselling, considering that the Greek real estate market is currently on the rise, prices are increasing every year. So we don't have a situation where prices are falling, prices are going up. Accordingly, when reselling a property, we have clients who, for example, bought at one stage, decided they wanted to make a profit, sold the property and entered a new project, while and there is no capital gains tax in Greece.
That's very important.
And accordingly, it's very advantageous. Of course, we're not saying that clients are turning this into a business, doing it several times a year, every year. No, in that case, it would be considered a business. So if it's a one-off deal, say once every few years, there is no capital gains tax.
That's another plus and bonus that exists right now. But it's not for nothing that this program is the most popular and in demand in this segment, and there are practically no ready-made projects available. Yes, especially...
There are no ready-made ones. No ready-made ones at all. That's right.
Moreover, when it is ready, the price will also go up and you will already have earned as an investor.
When it's ready, by the way, we're handing over this property in November this year. It simply won't be left. We have only a few units left for sale right now. I want to say that there is huge demand from all over the world for this program, and there are only a few units available.
Yes, and we see this as well with our clients from completely different countries. That's why there are no equivalents to this program. Well, thank you very much, Lena, for such detailed information. If you have any additional questions, we will definitely answer them in whatever format is convenient for you in the chat, or we can arrange a Zoom call. And of course, you can go to Greece and see everything with your own eyes, show it's being built, what it looks like, or you can purchase everything online. We will also send you videos and all the information. I look forward to seeing you at a personal consultation. Elena, thank you.
Thank you, Julia, for the invitation. I hope to see both you and your clients at the consultations.
Absolutely. Всем привет, меня зовут Юлия Щербак. Я являюсь специалистом компании